Bichang'A, who is a certified public accountant. And of course, Wycliff, I'm trying to get, I know you work for ISPAC. I'm trying to get that information for us. But welcome to KUTV Primetime News, and maybe you could take up from there. You work at ISPAC?
Thank you, Anne. I'll be able to clarify that. My name is CPA Wycliff Bichang'A. I work for Cliff & Company. I'm the managing partner. This is an audit firm.
Okay.
But I also serve in the Public Finance and Taxation Committee of ISPAC.
So in this Finance Bill 2023, what is the role of ISPAC in this finance bill?
ISPAC being a body that regulates and also advocates for the welfare of accountants, we've been very vocal. We've engaged with the National Assembly. First, what we did initially, once the finance bill was out, we went out and spoke to our members. We asked our members to give in submissions, tell us what they feel is right and what they feel is not right in this finance bill. We got recommendations, we got views from our members, that is ISPAC members, which we collated together and presented in form of a memorandum to the National Assembly. We did present to the Public Finance and Economic Planning Committee of Parliament our views, and it is our hope that as Parliament meets tomorrow, they will consider our suggestions.
All right, in your submission before Parliament, what are some of the things that you want done in regards to the Finance Bill 2023? There are quite a number.
There were quite a number. I must say there are good things in that bill, but there are also other matters in that bill that we felt are quite unfair to the public, and we also felt that the government may not achieve a collection of taxes as they want through this finance bill. First is the issue of the very first one that all our members felt it will be very, very unfair to the taxpayers, is the issue of payment of 20% deposit when you appeal a matter to the High Court. We felt that that is unconstitutional. What is going to happen is that taxpayers are going to shy away from making appeals because paying 20% even before you start the case is very, very unfair and actually very unconstitutional. To even show you how unfair it is, the same bill exempts the commissioner when they appeal. So we're trying to ask, how fair is this? How are you going to exempt one party? Because when you appeal, we want you to assume that it is at level playing field, and if you're going to achieve a level playing field, then the same conditions should be able to apply. But the commission has been exempted, but that's not even the bigger issue. The bigger issue is why ask people to pay when you're going for justice? If I'm a taxpayer and I'm aggrieved by the decision done at the Tax Appeals Tribunal, I want to appeal. You're telling me to appeal first pay 20%. Are you not trying to construe that I'm already guilty? And that is why you want me to pay the 20%. We all know how long matters in the High Court can run, so my 20% will just be sitting in there. The bill says if they finally lose the case, that is KRA, if they lose the case, you will be paid back within 30 days. We all know how hard it is getting money from government, and we feel that is quite unfair. The second issue that was in our memorandum is the issue of the housing levy. We feel that it's not well structured. We feel that making it mandatory doesn't really make sense. We also feel that it is going to make taxpayers have a very big burden which they may not need to carry. And our recommendation was that throw away this housing levy, or if you have to have it, then make it voluntary. We also have other recommendations, particularly on issues of withholding tax, where you are now required to pay withholding tax within 24 hours. We feel it is going to have a burden on taxpayers. What is going to happen is that you need to have a way of making payments every time you pay your suppliers, and we feel that the ripple effect is going to be really big and a big burden to taxpayers, among other things.
All right, now, should your submission not be met by Parliament, the first hearing will be tomorrow. What are you going to do as an organization that submitted your memorandum regarding the finance bill?
And you need to understand that the process of public participation, that is where we came in as ISPAC, is in such a way that you provide submissions, then you expect reason to prevail. If reason doesn't prevail from the other side, we have, as ISPAC, we may not have much choice, but probably think of other ways of lobbying. Now, we have seen previously, we've done this previously. For example, the suggestion that is now in this finance bill on inflation adjustment is part of the submissions that we've done previously. It was not taken up last year, but then it came in this year. So we always have to carry this forward to the next available opportunity.
Which is?
In this case, it could be probably lobbying with other bodies out there, but also it includes giving this memorandum in the next period again.
All right. We all know that Busia Senator Okiya Omtata is against the finance bill, and he stated last week that there are 6 sections in that finance bill that violates the Constitution, and he has taken his petition to court, which of course the court has said that it has given it a go-ahead as a matter that should be looked into. Would you also consider court should your memorandum not be met?
We want to believe Senator has got his constitutional right to move to court. We will wait to see how that goes. I think it will not make sense for ISPAC to move to court on matters like this, especially now that someone else has already litigated on the same. So I think all that we can do is hope for reason to prevail on this other side, but also hope that Senator gets a chance to be listened to by the courts.
All right, now much has been said about this housing fund levy, but from your point of view, what are the wins and losses for the ordinary taxpayer in regards to this levy?
In regards to the levy, there may not be many gains from where I sit, because if you think about it, we're talking of 3% subject to a maximum of 5,000 per contributor. So, and if you calculate it very fast, 5,000 for 12 months, we're talking of 60,000 for 1 year. 60,000 for 10 years, we're talking of 600,000. You tell me, Anne, which house are you going to get for 600,000 for 10 years after contributing for 10 years? It does not really make much sense from that side. But if you look at it from the angle of the body that is collecting this money, the fund manager, he has a pool of a lot of money. Think of 5,000. Let's take a number of maybe 3 million workers in this country, because this is particularly for workers, people who are employed, because there's no modality for unemployed people or self-employed. Now, 3 million times 5,000 shillings, we're talking of 15 billion shillings per month. That tells you that it will make a lot of sense for the body collecting this money. But how are you going to achieve delivering houses to the individuals? Maybe there's a modality, maybe this is what the government has not come out to tell us very clearly. But from where I sit, we cannot really see. Because if you think about it, a house worth 600,000, which you must have waited for 10 years, really may not make a lot of sense.
All right, now the government says the housing fund is a saving and not a tax, really, and that someone who doesn't want to own a house will get back their contributions. Do you think it is guaranteed that that 3% deduction will be already put as a form of affordable houses? Houses will already be there. Will the people now get back their money? Is it guaranteed?
This is the question that it's not very clear, and this is what I'm saying, that the government really needs to come out and tell us more on this, because we cannot see the logic. 600,000, fine, back to what they're saying. After 7 years, you can withdraw. I think that's what they're saying.
Yes.
You can get back your money. So question is, there's what we call time value of money. So question is, at what rate? Because the bill does not talk about interest. It does not talk about how you're going to be compensated for the time they have held your money. So as we said, you're collecting 15 billion per month. Probably you put it in an investment, it gained money. Why don't you want to share that interest with the contributors? They've only spoken of getting back a refund. Now, if I give you 2 shillings today, you stay with it, give it back to me in 7 years' time, the value will not be the same. And so they need to talk about the compensation for inflation plus interest. How is that going to happen? Back to the question that do I think it is going to happen? We're told trust your government. I don't want to cast aspirations, but highly unlikely.
All right. When on the brighter side, they say that with the housing fund levy, it will create job opportunities for Kenyans, and the government is aiming to build 200,000 houses. Don't you see that indeed this is a way of salvaging the job opportunity in Kenya for the youth with this housing fund levy?
The thing is that we are still constructing houses for ourselves, and people do not have as many jobs as possible. We also know that we have people trained in various arts. So what happens to people who are not in the construction industry? I think it is very simplistic by talking about creating jobs through the housing fund. My idea will be, let's first structure the fund well. Let's have very clear, because as an accountant, I love to see a process. I love to see this is how it is going to happen. Money is going to move from here, go here, make this happen, make that happen. And this is what we're asking for. Can we understand the process? If the process has not been defined well, define it well. Instead of making it very simple, that we are creating jobs for the youth, we need to see it first on paper before we actually move there.
Now, the government has indeed campaigned for this housing fund levy, but Kenyans still have sided opinion about it. They're not still convinced. So what better way? I understand that the principal secretary for housing fund, that is Charles Hinga, took to the media and really tried to explain this housing fund levy.
And he struggled. He struggled to explain.
He did. So what better way? What can be done to make it simplified and easier for Kenyans to know that indeed they are safe with this housing fund levy?
My suggestion will be that we need to start from the bottom. The government needs to come to the public, ask the public what they really want, ask the public how they want it, and also take that time to explain how they think is going to happen. As you rightly put, the PS struggled to explain. You could see he even had to sweat in a cold afternoon. That tells you there are things that are not very clear. There are things that really need to be thought through. There's that process, again, as I said. We need to see that process, and it needs to make sense. Otherwise, there's going to be opposition from the public, and rightly so, because this is their hard-earned cash.
Is there really time for opposition to really now reject this, housing fund levy or just finance bill in general? Because I understand yesterday the Wiper Democratic leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, said the government should have funds by 30th June so that the government can run. And then again, the public was already engaged on matters finance bill. Is there really time to still engage the public on their views on this housing fund, considering that there are legislatures leaders who say that there will be nothing to be amended in that finance bill 2023? So does the people's opinion really matter in this point?
And to me, that is the most unfortunate situation, where we have high-ranking government officials saying you cannot amend this. you cannot do this. It has to go as it is. That's very unfortunate, because you then wonder, why engage this in public participation? In my view, the designers of our constitution, where they clearly said matters like these have to go through public participation, the intention was to have input from the public, so that if the public is uncomfortable, that matter is shelved for another day. And that is the right thing to do. The housing levy, for instance, has received opposition from everyone. It could be their right, we are wrong, but we're asking, can you educators, can we get to have more information? And in my opinion, time we have, all that needs to happen is that the finance bill goes in through amendments, clauses like housing levy, clauses that we have opposed, for example, the issue with the tax appeals tribunal, the issue with appeals to the High Court on tax matters. Those ones should be left out. Then they can always be brought back at a later date after proper participation. And the housing levy, for instance, maybe there's a better way we can structure, because we all want to have houses. We all want to live in better houses. We totally agree. But is there a better way that we can do this? I believe there's a better way. I believe we have people out there who can give good suggestions. Don't rush it. And remember, we're bringing in this housing levy after we've increased the NSSF, the new rates coming up for NHIF. What is the hurry for? Can we wait for a little bit, handle these matters step by step? Maybe the public is going to buy in.
All right. Now, I understand in the previous regime, the housing fund levy was made voluntary. But could there be any possibility that this year's housing fund levy proposal is a way of deviating from the different ways that previous regimes have been doing it? What do you think is different for 2023? Why is there so much pressure to make it compulsory?
My view is that the current regime views, remember, it's always good to remember where we've come from. There's a time the president said he does not believe in foreign borrowing. I strongly believe the president has seen a way to create a pool of funds, and so that they are able to spend, they are able to borrow from that fund and run government to avoid external borrowing. That's a possibility. I could be wrong, but that is what I think the push for compulsory housing levy.
Now, all right, as we wind up, of course, just elaborate to us a bit on Caution Fund, which is meant to woo investors. Now, if investors come in and invest in the housing program, what happens to the funds raised from the levy by Kenyans?
My understanding is that the fund cushions those investors, so they know that there's a security put in place. But question is, and these are some of those things that have not been made clear. Question is that at what point do those investors make their money? At what point does someone then pay them back for the money they put into the project? Those are some of the things, and that we're saying need to be made very clear before we really go in and say, yes, the levy makes a lot of sense and we are all adopting it.
Now, the government also says, now we are winding up, the government also says that with the housing fund levy, it is a way of bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. Is it really realistic to think about it now as an accountant? Is it possible?
It doesn't make sense at all as an accountant. I can authoritatively say that. It doesn't make sense, because are we then saying, you pull this money, we're going to make houses, give them to the poor? If we give you a house and you are poor, does that mean you have increased, or rather you've upgraded your stature? Are we measuring poorness or richness through ownership of a house? I do not think so. So if we said that we are raising money for whatever reason, and maybe we're eradicating slums, that will make some sense from some angle, but it cannot again be done through a levy that is as high as 3% of somebody's pay. So in terms of are we bridging the gap between the poor and the rich, I do not think so. After all, we are told everyone who contributes will own a house. So if I'm rich, I have 7 houses, I'm going to get an 8th house. So still, the gap has not been bridged. That's what I see.
All right, now that is your camera, and I want you to tell us, the first hearing is beginning tomorrow. What do you look forward to?
I look forward to robust discussions in Parliament. I look forward to seeing our MPs discussing issues, discussing the memorandums that not just ISPAC has given. Several organizations I know have given memorandums, specific issues. The housing levy, not outstanding. That's I think the one issue that have been spoken a lot, but there are several other issues. We spoke about the issues with giving a deposit to appeal when appealing. We've also spoken of issues of fertilizers, for example. We are told they are now exempt, which is welcome move, but we expect them to be zero rated because that way the farmer will then benefit more. So those are the kind of discussions that we expect to see in Parliament, and ultimately we expect that the finance bill will be amended and passed with those contentious issues out so that we can have more time to discuss as a nation and always bring them back when we are all comfortable.
All right, thank you so much. That is Wycliff, Bichang'A, and Wycliff, we're looking forward to having you again after that presentation of that finance bill to Parliament tomorrow. I don't know if you think it will pass and what will happen, but we're looking forward to bringing you back here to back it up and to find out what has happened post its presentation. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
Right, we're taking a very short break right here. We're coming back with sport.